let's really start this episode now. All right, this is our proper UFC 290 recap
off with
episode.
Dricus Adesanya, but thank God we cut it at the right point before things got said. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. So this is our UFC 290 Unplugged edition. We're talking about everything that went down this past weekend at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. It was International Fight Week, so there was a lot going on all week on the Strip. They had Hall of Fame ceremonies and inductions. They had the UFC Expo and all of that stuff. We're not here to talk about any of that, really. Well, we'll talk about a little bit of the Hall of Fame stuff.
UFC X or something?
UFC X, yes.
Yeah.
A lot of sweaty UFC fans getting to meet their heroes. One day we'll be there, hopefully. The card, boy, did the card deliver, man. I would say, I would comfortably say, best card of the year so far. There's been easy. We've had some stacked cards already this far into the year, but man, this one just delivered it on so many fronts. So much intrigue. Just you mentioned it at the very top. Just after the Dricus Du Plessis Robert Whittaker fight alone, I had to be like, you have to remind yourself, like, fuck, we still have two more fights. We still have a co-main and a main event.
The craziest fights
because it almost just with everything from that fight with Israel Adesanya coming into the cage and their awkward like exchange and all that stuff, it very much felt like the kind of drama that you get after a main event wraps up and we're rolling into the next fight. But Alexander Volkanovski gets the round 3 finish over Yair Rodriguez. Alexandre Pantoja gets a split decision win over Brandon Moreno. Dricus Du Plessis. I'm just going through and just kind of giving a rundown, and we'll start to cover them individually. Dricus Du Plessis, probably the biggest upset of the year, I would say. Just fucking crazy. Nobody was really giving him a shot. We certainly weren't. We were. I can't even say we were rooting for him.
Dricus. Yeah, stand for Dricus is like, this guy's bad fucking ass. I can confidently say, like, we're not coming late to the party on this bandwagon. No. But at the same time, Robert Whittaker's like mythical person, like mythical character. So you just can't bet. You don't bet against fucking Thanos. You don't bet against like fucking Thor or whatever. You can't do that.
It almost feels disrespectful. Robert Whittaker will never know that we did or didn't pick him or picked against him.
Fuck less,
when Aldo fought Merab,
we both kind of knew.
I was picking Merab in that fight. I'm a Merab fan. I feel like I'm one of the only ones sometimes. But even that night on Verdict, when I'm going and putting my picks in, I felt so wrong to pick against Aldo. I went ahead and still picked Aldo because
Makhachev. It was the same thing. It was like, how am I gonna do this? Like, what am I supposed to do?
But I guess we'll start here then with the Dricus with the DDP versus Robert Whittaker fight. Round 1, looking like business as usual, kind of looking like the fight we expected. Robert Whittaker's controlling the distance. We saw the bladed stance. He's able to close the distance and get in, and Dricus didn't look bad. He just kind of was getting beat to the punch, and I'm loving the description of the finishing sequence here on Tapology, or his win method was power jab to punches, and that's exactly spot on. I don't know if they called it a power jab because it was kind of more just like a who am I to sit here and call it a sloppy jab? But that's what I wanted to call it.
No,
but
I think Jack Slack put it really well in his breakdown of it. It was tactics versus
technique.
Tactics versus technique.
Yeah,
absolutely. And he's like, the technique could be fucking great, like Demiris Magulov and the switch kick Poppy. Those guys technically it looks gorgeous what they do, but they fucking lost to someone who tactically put it together and did it better. And Dricus is tactic versus technique, and there's no other way to put it. That's why Jack Slack is who he is, because he put it in that frame, and that's exactly it. Tactics versus like he this is who I am, this is what I do, and I'm going to do it in a way that beats you.
And the tactical part, if you're like super minding of your P's and Q's, it can almost look bite you in the ass a little bit, because there's that, if you kind of lack that chaos factor, you almost become a little bit easier to read. And I'm not even going to come out and say like that's a weakness that I'm going to call out on somebody. Like if I'm like rating Robert Whittaker or anybody else as a fighter, I'd be like, well, they're actually too good and too tactical and regimented that you start to see their patterns easier. Like, no, I'm not going to go there.
Either with shit like that.
But DDP clearly saw something. You know, he or his coaches watched. He's
so strong.
Yeah,
he's just so strong.
And
it's not.
A physical presence for sure. The follow-up punches. I mean, Whittaker just kind of melted. And he put it on him, and it was just surreal. It was surreal to watch. It just felt like, what the fuck are we
on a night of crazy shit from beginning to end? I watched every last fight, every minute, every round of every fight, early prelims to whatever. Everything was fucking surreal. Everything was fucking crazy. There was already with Wadaki, and there's just with Bo Nickel, what the fuck he did. The Jalen Turner fucking fight, like what in the fuck? Like it was just like, what the fuck and what the fuck and what the hell? And then this happened, and you're just like, this, I don't have time. I have weird, like what's in our heads, it's just meat and like liquid moving around. Like it doesn't have time to like process. Some people process it way faster and can understand it. That freaked me out. That really freaked me out.
And post-fight, Dricus just handling everything like beautifully. Yeah,
absolutely.
Izzy coming in, getting in his face, dropping about
he was sloppy fucking drunk. Dude, did you hear that shit? He just like, do a 26 in me right here.
He called it a 36 in me and then a 26 in me, and in my mind I was one of those dudes, like when you're on Jeopardy, or excuse me, when you're watching Jeopardy and you know the answer, and it's like, whoa, somebody tell him that's not what it is. But
we got to do it. It's like that Mr. Burns, like when Smithers leaves the game. Remember, he's like, I'll get you a foam finger, and then Lenny's like, hey, Mr. Burns, and then he's like looking through the window. That's what it was, dude. It was like Lenny talking to Mr. Burns, dude, like, thanks, we just want to say thank you. And it's just like, whoa, dude, what is this? This is like crazy.
And Dricus, he kind of like no-sold, like, you know,
he played it so
Israel.
well, dude. Chael broke it down really good on MMA Hour. It was like, why is everybody making it about race? It's just he did what he did. He flexed. Like, I live in Africa. But that's definitely a flex. It's a poke. He's trying to get a fight. Absolutely. He admitted that. And then he brought up, like, I did that to Anderson Silva. I said, he's not fucking Brazilian. He moved to fucking Beverly Hills. He trains in Beverly Hills for like decades now. What are you saying, Brazilian? Now all of a sudden you're Brazilian? I've heard you speak English. What are you talking about? And well,
that's a perfect example of how Chael knows how to spin. Like, he's answering his own question there. I haven't watched the video.
Leon Edwards did it. About. Leon Edwards did it to Bisping. He's like, he's not from the UK. He moved to America. He's not from the UK. And then a lot of people like, and then, well, the thing of that was funny about me was like, well, okay, Dricus was born there, but Dricus's family kind of like took that land, and they took it from indigenous people. And I was like, coming from Israel. So let me say something. So Ariel Helwani, let's just put it out there, doesn't think a certain race of people is just allowed to go and take someone's land. What are you talking about? So like, what if, say, what's his name, Nathan Levy, or Ashmuz? What if those gentlemen said the same type of shit to Bilal Muhammad, or Bilal Muhammad said it back to them? Would it be the same thing? Like, what are we talking about? It's just insane. Like, the way they're making it about race, and like they're moving goalposts back and forth, it just trips me out. It just really trips me out.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm not gonna pretend like I don't understand why they're doing that. Like, I think Dricus knew exactly how incendiary those comments were. I think it's more of a deal. It's like, I don't understand why the fans are acting confused. Well, I understand why the fans are acting confused, because they're MMA fans, and they're not the smartest fan base at all. I think that's a lot of not understanding or knowing to separate race from nationality, as far as the whole African thing goes, because I understand, like, for the common man, like, looking at the optics of it, here's the white guy telling the black guy he's not a real African, and that's all they need to sell this fight, honestly. I think that's what got Dricus. That's what got DDP. He did it beautifully,
because he didn't make it was incendiary, but it also wasn't, because he didn't make it about race. It was just nationality.
Yeah.
Because you moved. It's been said by other fighters at other times. You moved away, dude. Yeah. I'm still here. That's all he said.
I'm gonna bring that belt to Africa,
like Usman himself too said some pretty crazy shit about it, and Izzy went insane, went full Lenny to Mr. Burns. Like, he went full crazy. So it's just like he played them so well. Mm-hmm. He played it Adesanya very well.
I think one kind of angle of this that I hadn't really considered, and I'm interested, and I think it's more of a quiet shade sort of a deal, but Mexican fighters, I'd like to know, like, kind of what their mentality is compared to, like, Latino fighters, like Mexican American fighters, you know what I mean? Because the UFC got behind whoever they could with a Mexican last name for a while, trying to break into that market. Absolutely. They went all out for Cain Velasquez, and Cain Velasquez is at the end of the day, he's no more Mexican than you and I, It
was basically like Selena going back. Yeah. And like, yo muy excited. Like, saying shit like that. That's what it was.
I am kind of curious if it's going to get old by the time we get around to fight fight night for DDP and Adesanya.
And Adesanya is just like lost it on social media. He keeps posting about it, like these little movies and these things, and just like out of context quotes, and he's just like, man, you're insane, dude. You're something else. And then everyone's posting like, well, you said you're Chinese, and you said, you know what I mean, like you flat out said you're Chinese, you flat out are you moved to New Zealand. Like, what happened to the people of New Zealand? There's an indigenous tribes in New Zealand. There's indigenous tribes in
who gives a fuck what commenters say, though? I think that the worst part about it is Adesanya knows how to market a fight. He knows how to sell a fight because he knows how to kind of to stay in the I don't know, in the conversation. He's going to keep this thing churning. I'm wondering if they're going to now. I mean, once the fight's booked, that whole thing they don't even have to keep going back to the well on that whole real African versus fake African sort of deal, because like DDP got what he wanted. The fight's the fight's not booked yet, but he's got his fight. He had to beat Robert Whittaker to get it. And I think it's just easier to stay with that whole angle. And he
didn't just beat Robert Whittaker, like he didn't like Jared Cannonier his way in.
No,
he fucking like, what else, bitch? Like, who else?
Yeah.
Who really, like, we talked about that, like Holloway beating the shit out of everybody before Volk gets a piece of him. Like, he fucking straight up killed Whittaker. Like, there's no stone left unturned. Like, he deserves it.
And as far as the whole angle or the way they're selling this fight, the only thing where I'm like, hey, props DDP. I thought it was funny. I was for the whole angle, but if nothing else, what the MMA world has shown us is that there's a lot of fucking biters. Like, there's not a whole lot of people who have, the gift of gab or a whole lot of originality in how they're selling their fights. So this formula is going to get repeated to fucking death.
Oh, that's not an angle that I even fucking saw. And this day and age with the culture war shit, it's gonna suck.
It's gonna get
and it's gonna get ham-handed. It's going to get Mike Perry. There's gonna be more Mike Perry than there is gonna be Dricus. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. And to anybody who's saying like, "Oh, you're being dramatic. It's not gonna be that bad," just look at. I mean, look at how many literal Connor copycats there are. Like, you could find YouTube videos of dudes in small like organizations who have like the same generic tattoos and who like fucking do the same flexing and yelling.
Like Sean O'Malley is like, he wanted to be Connor really, really bad, and then he kind of like got into his own thing.
Yeah, he at least kind of grew his own kind of like personality and stuff, and has his own style. But it definitely appeals to the same like demographics. But yeah, dude, like Mike has shared some videos with me of like regional fighters and stuff who like copy Conor's mannerisms, everything, his walk, all of it. And I just I think there's a lot of guys just doing what they can to get noticed. Yeah, man. But what do you think Dricus's chances are in that fight with Israel Adesanya? Better than you thought going into the Whittaker fight, right?
Yeah, better. And I think his strength is crazy because he has an MMA strength where Pereira's strong as fuck. Pereira's strong as fuck, but we saw Kelvin Gastelum, who was kind of like a different level of strength and chin. And I think now that he's gone, if he can go 5 rounds, and not that he has to go 5 rounds, but if he gets his body in a place and his cardio into a place where he can go the 5 rounds, which I know he's done before. Mm-hmm. So I don't see just holding Adesanya down and like ground and pounding him, and how he was tactically able to take down. If you can take down Robert Whittaker, you're gonna be able to take down Israel Adesanya. Mm-hmm. There's just no. I don't see how that doesn't. And Jan just bigger bodied the shit. Jan Blachowicz just bigger bodied the shit out of Adesanya. There's a blueprint there, like it's there. And if anyone's built like that in this division right now, it's Dricus.
Great comparison. Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but yeah, as far as just their physique,
weird,
it's
funky.
It's like create a fighter and swap their faces. So yeah, for Jan Blachowicz and
he's
Dricus.
Just a more like cut up, chiseled Jan Blachowicz.
Massive shoulders on Dricus.
Oh my God, beautiful man.
Yeah.
Beautiful man.
Let's see. What was I gonna ask you something else about this matchup before we move on from it. DDP.
He stayed sober. You have to give him a lot of credit because a lot of people would be like, I got what I wanted. Here we go. And then ruin it. He just was like, dude, take it easy. Like, hey, man, take it easy. That's the best way to handle some shit like that.
Yeah.
Because Adesanya wasn't getting the reaction he wanted. So she doesn't listen to this, but like my wife does this shit all the fucking time where she gets real crazy with the fight and then like she like amps it up because she knows that I'm going to do it. But every time I kind of go like, just kick it, just relax. It gets worse and worse and worse for her.
Yeah.
They hate that shit. And then like because he's very feminine, dude. He's a very feminine presence. Adesanya does. We've seen him dancing. He wears the pearls, the fingernails, the everything else. He's very feminine in that way. So he wasn't getting what he wanted, and he just kept ramping it. And Dricus just did okay, sweetie, just relax here, young lady. Like, you're getting a little too crazy. I like the way he did that.
Does this fight need to happen in Africa? Does the UFC pull out all the stops?
I think, what did Dricus say? Like, I'm going to beat you on neutral ground. Mm-hmm. And then we'll take it back and you can come and get my belt in Africa. Like the way he said that was like, that sounds amazing.
That's the talk. You got to sell. Yeah. You got to set up the rematch before the first fight even happens.
Yeah.
And as long as he's competitive, I mean, because let's talk about how fucking Sean Strickland's chances just went right out the fucking window. Yeah. Like people were talking about Sean Strickland.
Enjoy a fucking highly motivated Robert Whittaker, Sean. Enjoy that, dude. Enjoy like a hungry and like embarrassed and just like fucking teeth out Robert Whittaker. Enjoy that, dude.
Or also the UFC could possibly say, and I don't think they're really going to do this, but if my dumbass had the power, or they possibly say, well, we don't need Strickland anymore. We found an actual contender, so just fight Bo Nickel, Strickland. Like, let's.
Yeah.
But I still think they take it slow.
I think it's going to be Whittaker, Strickland on a fight night card when it's like kind of like a lull season when pay-per-views aren't as good.
Yeah.
They're going to sneak that in to like steal the hardcore view.
It's a good fight. Down for that.
It is. I'm down for it too.
We have a new UFC flyweight champion. Alexandre Pantoja finally gets his crack. Well, excuse me. Finally gets his crack at the title. It's his third crack at Brandon Moreno. He had already held one official win over Brandon and one non-official or exhibition win in The Ultimate Fighter. house. One thing I forgot about that I don't think I mentioned, or I don't think we mentioned when we were breaking out this fight, is that he knocked out Islam Makhachev. Alexandre Pantoja. Alexandre Pantoja holds a win, 3 weight classes above himself. No, that's so funny. Was that on The Ultimate Fighter? And I didn't mention this because I didn't know it because I didn't watch it, but Brandon Moreno was the last guy to get picked on The Ultimate Fighter.
So leading up to this fight, afterwards, because we had a little bit of time, I watched the fights before, and it was just YouTube style, so it was highlights. It was on MMA Core, something we shared together, you and I.
Sure.
And you can just click it, and you know how those are. There's no like context. It's just like straight up, like basically tape, and
which is good because it doesn't spoil the fights. You can,
absolutely. And wow, Brandon Moreno, like I would pay if I could, like Back to the Future it, would love to just watch how he did what he did to where he's at now. Like, dude, what did you do? And if you can do that to show other people how to train that way or get themselves that way, he fucking is polished beyond belief, dude.
Yeah.
And like my stupid ass, you can just see it. It's plain to see for anybody how polished he is from the time he fought Pantoja way back to now. It's a different human being.
It's a testament to the fact that there should be rematches. I'm not against rematches in MMA. I think we complain a bit because there's a lot of instant or trilogies and rematches that happen back to back at the top of the divisions in the UFC. But I think it's a lot more eye-opening and intriguing when you see rematches that happen years apart that don't have anything to do with the title. And this third fight did, the title was on the line, but I think that's where you get a real gauge of someone's growth because,
amazing, man.
Yeah, because I rewatched their second fight, and I didn't know what to expect going into this because I knew Brandon Moreno's clearly leveled up, and he's 4 fights with Davison Figueiredo that are going to do a lot for his experience. But I also thought, Alexandre Pantoja is not going to get completely outworked and on the feet in the stand-up. And he had his moments. He knocked down Brandon Moreno in, I think it was round 1.
Round 1, absolutely. Yeah. 2 Moreno, really,
my totally legal and legit stream died for round 2, so I didn't actually see most of round 2. But yeah, okay. Before I get too ahead of myself, how did you actually score it? Because this was a very, very close fight.
I had him winning 1, 3, and 5.
Okay. 5, I definitely had to give that one to Pantoja. He didn't do any damage, but it just having back control that long, it's hard to argue with it. But going into it, when they were about to announce it, I don't know how I actually scored it because, like I mentioned, I didn't see round 2. But I kind of felt like Brandon Moreno was possibly going to get it. Like, I wasn't confident that Pantoja was going to get the decision. It was that close for me.
Very fair. Oh, yeah. It was one of the closer fights I've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, and dude, the exact same crazy that you mentioned that, yeah. And then watching it again, it was like, okay, I see what I saw. And then I was very sober for that. So I was just like insanely sober and insanely keyed into what was going on, which I never usually am. So that was crazy, a different experience too. And it just really felt like, the control, like, fucking Moreno did a lot of damage, but if you watch who's controlling this fight, so there's damage and control, and there's just doing damage. And I felt like Pantoja really controlled the fight for the majority of it. There weren't, not all the time fully, but I feel like he controlled kind of where the fight took place. He was getting a lot more counter shots, counter jabs. He was kind of like dictating a little bit. I get as much as you can in such an amazing fight like that.
Yeah,
like real cut hair thin, razor thin, fucking give it to him. But yeah, I did have him winning 1, 3, and 5.
Alexandre's record climbs to 26-5 with this win over Brandon. He's the first Brazilian to reclaim not reclaim a title for himself, but for the country of Brazil. Going into this fight,
those people, like we saw Gilbert and Glover, their reactions, like they were just crying, and it was like, man, why? I was like, why are they? And then I remember seeing that, like, dang, he's crying like that, and then when he did his post fight, it's like, oh shit, they probably like know it.
Plenty of reason for big old grown man tears for sure. But Brazil, there was no current champion for Brazil in the UFC, which is rare.
That's strange. I can't remember I'm sure there's been last times in recent history, but that's very strange to not have one.
I'm not confident that since I started watching MMA in 2006, I don't know that there was ever a time where there wasn't at least one Brazilian champion.
Right.
And I guess I wouldn't be shocked if like someone told me, oh no, in 2014 there was no Brazilian champ for like 3 months or something like that.
Actually,
adjust glasses. But Pantoja does it, and let's talk about that post fight interview, man. Specifically the dad part, man. Damn, I don't know. I saw some people kind of making fun of him or something. But it's like, dude, what the fuck?
But it was lost in translation, because if he was speaking Portuguese, he probably would, and we all understood Portuguese, we probably would have been like, dang, bro, like, oh, for real. But he's just trying to speak a different language, guys. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And he just got hit in the fucking head.
Oh, yeah. A lot. And these are some of the brightest lights that Pantoja's ever been under.
Absolutely.
Because we've known like how good Pantoja is. I predicted.
Oh, it's documented here, dude. That's the boy right there.
That was my flyweight prediction for who would be champion at the end of the year. So
absolutely.
I mean, that could still change.
Did we both see that, or I don't know.
I'd have to go back and check. Maybe.
I was straight gargling to the base that ABC when he beat Brandon. Was it Brandon Royval?
I'm going back and looking at my notes for who we picked. But yes, he beat Brandon Royval back in 2021.
After that fight, I was just like, how
do we move forward here? Because he does have that very recent win over Brandon Royval, but
no one's ready. Mohamed Makhachev's not ready.
No, not at all.
Just do them. I mean, everyone will watch the Moreno quadrilogy. Like, why not?
I don't know if he's earned an immediate rematch. Did you hear that stat? Did you hear that stat about Brandon Moreno that he's been in 6 title fights and has no title defenses?
Insane. And that's but it's just like Amir Albazi's. Fuck that guy. Fuck him, dude. I don't want anything to do with him.
That's probably the guy, though. Now that you
that's so gross. That's so gross.
He has.
But that would be cool though, just to give Pantoja here, dude. Here, king. Eat.
I think if that was also a really tough fight, so it would also be understandable if Pantoja has to take some time. And in the interim, I would be really down to see Brandon Royval fight Amir Albazi for the number 1 contendership. That'd be I think that'd be a good move, because Amir Albazi 17-1, coming off of that. It was a split decision win over Kai Kara France. Yeah. It's not what it says here on his record. Yeah. But
not what my fucking my mushroom mind that I was all mushroom minded and won live bet won.
But back to the drawing board a little bit for Brandon Moreno.
I love Royval and Albazi. I like that.
Yeah. And then, but we'd still have to kind of figure out what's going to happen with Brandon Moreno, though, too, because if those two are tied up, and I think it's a little early and a little too high up. I think
would be down to fight Albazi, because they were saying he was doing Uber Eats like 2 fights ago or 3 fights ago.
Oh, yeah.
So he's probably going to want championship money. And he was like, I'll beat the shit out of Albazi. Like, what the fuck? Let's do it. Give me that pay-per-view money. I earned it. Let's do it right away.
Manel Kape is booked again. Hopefully this time he can actually get in there and do the damn thing. He's booked against Kai Kara France for September 9th. It's the day before my birthday. If he gets that win over Kai Kai, that would be 4 wins in a row for Manel Kape. Granted, it would be his only win or his only fight in 2023. But I think, he would probably make a case for throwing his hat into there and being a contender. I don't know if he's... I think that there's a lot of guys here. There's a lot of good names. There's a lot of quality, but they haven't quite made the impact that you'd want to see for someone to establish themselves as a title contender.
He's another African king, right? Manel Kape?
Yeah.
Angola, right?
Where's he actually from?
I think he's from Angola.
Yep, Luanda, Angola. That's where he's born.
Yeah, we'll have to ask Dricus exactly what he is. But
yeah, props for you for knowing that. You're really down for Manel Kape. I mean, we're both down for Manel Kape, but I wouldn't have been able to tell you where he was born.
No, I just remember when I see flags, when I watch, I'm like, oh, is that Trinidad Tobago? And I look, okay. I just kind of I'm very weird. My mind always goes, let's look at where that flag's from.
I think that being fans of MMA gets us a little bit more exposed to other nationalities than you normally would in other sports. Maybe it doesn't quite stack up to soccer, probably.
Yeah.
But yeah, probably.
We do know our Slavs.
The average, the average MMA fan probably knows a little bit more about that stuff than they probably would based off of other points of knowledge.
Sure.
Let's see. Did we cover everything for the Pantoja Moreno fight?
Yeah.
Any other
I think so.
talking points? Yeah. A little up in the air as to what's next for Brandon Moreno, but tough fight.
We mentioned it in the group chat. Coming out to Many Men is badass.
Yeah.
50 Cent Many Men is such a sick fucking... And then come out and do that shit. That's fuck yeah, dude. That's sick.
We mentioned the title, going back to Brazil, but that was the first strike against the Mexican champions, losing 1 belt. And we'll get into this main event here where Alexander Volkanovski made sure Yair Rodriguez also wasn't taking his interim belt back to Mexico. So Mexican champions, they went from 2.5 Mexican champions to just the 1. So Alexa Grasso... Yeah. It's all on your shoulders now. Go beat Valentina Shevchenko again.
Kick. Hopefully, everyone, the whole country of Mexico is throw a spinning kick, bitch.
Yeah, and this is why I said yes, absolutely to that. I don't even know. It wasn't really even a meme, but it was can you imagine all the 3 Mexican UFC champs winning their titles and losing their titles all within the same year? Yeah.
Yes.
Of course. Yeah. It's not even. I don't even think that's.
They have to fight. Did you see who they have? It's not like they were fighting cans or whatever.
No.
It's they're fighting some of the greatest fighters.
I wouldn't even say it was a hot take to say that they would all potentially lose their titles in the same year. But yeah, let's get into this Alexander Volkanovski Yair Rodriguez fight. This one wasn't close. This was pretty much one-way traffic. Yair didn't look completely awful in the first round. I think the biggest factor as to whether we were giving Yair a shot in this fight, and I was certainly kind of thinking man, could he do something different? Can he give Alexander Volkanovski a different
Yair,
look?
Right? Didn't you take Yair?
I don't remember if I picked him on the show. I might have. Chaos pick.
I think you did. I will never bet against Volkanovski. I know, not me. Couldn't be me, dog.
Couldn't be me. Yeah.
Couldn't be me, dog.
I kind of thought, I was very curious to see, given their height difference and how fast and with no telegraphing, he's able to just launch those head kicks out there. I thought, man,
and he got it. I said it perfectly too. I'm gonna give myself props right here. I said he's gonna get him with the head kick, and he's just going to, and he did.
Mm-hmm. I think I picked Volkanovski too, though, because I do remember specifically saying one thing I've always tipped my hat to Volkanovski for, among many things, is that he comes into every fight prepared to be the fighter that he needs to be specifically for that opponent. And I was really caught up. Yeah, I was really caught up on the fact that no matter how competitive Yair might be on the feet, I think that the takedowns, the wrestling advantage is squarely in Alexander Volkanovski's court, and ultimately the takedown should be free. He should be able to get him down whenever he wants. And if that's where he decides he wants to make the fight take place, then it's going to be a long night for Yair, or a short night.
The drag his ass to the corner, press his head against the fucking cage, and just fucking. He was doing that shit. He was crawling him into his corner. That was fucking sick. That
was something that I was as I watched the fights with Mike at his place. And one thing that I immediately lost faith in Yair's chances in this fight when he was on the ground close to the cage and he wasn't making any serious attempt to really like kind of shimmy over and put his back on the cage and start to wall walk. And whenever I see that, I always think like, okay, this is a very bad sign for their scramble, their defensive grappling. Like if they don't know, like it really is all about like to anybody who hasn't been watching MMA that long and don't quite have a grasp of how much grappling has changed over the last 10, 15 years. It used to be that when a guy got somebody down, like you would hear their coaches literally tell them to take them and put them up against the cage, because there was this idea that you can kind of like smother them up against the cage, and if they're a grappler, they'd have less angles to which to lock up submissions on. Like if they're going to try and throw up an armbar from guard or something like that, well, their cage is right there, so they might not be able to roll the right way that they need to in order to fully extend that armbar or whatever submission. So there was this idea that like you get a guy down, you don't want him down in the middle of the octagon. You want to fucking scoot him over and put their ass on the cage and scrunch them up there and rain down ground and pound. Well, nowadays, every fight, if you're on your back and you want to get to your feet, you need to get your ass to that cage because you have another surface to lean on. And that's the meta. And Yair Rodriguez wasn't doing that.
No, right.
Yeah,
no way.
Like Volkanovski had to practically prop him up against the cage before Yair was like, okay, I'm wall walking now, and he got up fast when he finally did that. But I thought, okay, that really kind of like illustrates the big difference in grappling in this matchup, and ultimately, if Volkanovski was going to want to take the fight to the ground, it was a short fight. He managed to finish Yair inside the distance. And he makes a statement. And now Yair, I think the biggest question now is if Alexander Volkanovski is going to angle for the rematch with Islam Makhachev, and if he's going to try and go and stake his claim for the lightweight title again. Are you ready for that? Do you want to see him do that, or would you prefer to see him defend his title at featherweight? He has no shortage of contenders. He has Ilia Topuria who's there. What way do you think the pendulum swings? Which way do you want it to swing?
He can do whatever the fuck he wants to do, and I won't question it. I don't know. I'm not smart enough to understand his brain to know what's best. I'm smart enough to go like, okay, whatever he does is the right thing. That's how I think of it. Whatever he says, dude. Yes, daddy. Like, do it. Say what you want, dude. Pause. Do whatever you want. Like, I would love all of it.
But do you have to have a take as far as like what you would want for the divisions, though? Not even talking about specific, because Alexander Volkanovski is amazing. I think right now I'm ready to call him. I mean, he did the loss to Islam was still recent enough that he's still number 2 pound for pound, but I don't want to talk pound for pound. Every time I mention pound for pound,
if he Sugar Sean O'Malley's he has a way better claim to Sugar Sean O'Malley the Islam fight, saying like, I beat that fucking guy. That's not, couldn't be me. I didn't lose. Like, I
just still feel like Volk and pretty much no fighter for me is above just stalling out 2 divisions. That's my biggest gripe with the whole idea that as soon as a champion strings 2-3 wins together, they're ready to be like, no, I'm ready for a double champion. I put me up against the next guy up a weight class or down a weight class. I feel like Islam, and I probably said this when they booked the first fight, Islam has contenders, Volk has contenders, but I'm kind of like you because I do think that if Volk wants to go up and try and challenge Islam again, if they make that fight, and like we were talking about, the timing kind of works out because Now Charlie's not going to be able to go for October, or I think they were shooting for October, so that might be the case. I would be super down or super into a Yair Rodriguez versus Ilia Topuria fight.
Yeah, absolutely. Why not?
So if they can make that in the interim or in the meantime, for
the Coco belt or whatever Yair did to that belt.
That was a fucking ugly belt, dude. A lot of people were giving him props. I mean, it was. I think it was one of those. What's the subreddit? Awful taste, but great execution. Like the work was impeccable. Yeah. All the lines, like somebody really knew what they were doing. But what just a fucking
like Hard Rock Nick. Like Hard Rock Nick would have that fucking belt, dude. Where am I and where are you?
Yeah, man. But Volkanovski is so fucking good, man. Such a great transitional fighter, too. That last sequence right before he gets Yair down to the ground, he had him stunned, had him backing up, and he goes in and stalking, body blows, uppercuts in the clinch, and then just transitions seamlessly to a takedown. It's just, he's a fucking pleasure to watch, man.
Yeah. And his breakdown, he did it on his channel. Check out his YouTube channel because the way he breaks it down is very much him, and he gave a lot more, and he's like, okay, you guys follow me. I think he's probably, by the time we're talking, he's probably got more than 250,000, but he wasn't very high for a guy you would think he'd have a lot for as active as he is, to the cooking and all that shit he does. And he's like, well, you guys are following me. I've never done this before, and I'll have to go back and watch it again. But the way he broke it down, I would implore anyone listening to this to break it down the way he talked about it. He talked about it from, okay, I was cut here in my eye, so you saw me wearing bandages, so I was doing things differently. The way he was leading in, he talked about like how that headbutt was kind of, because of that eye, he was protecting that eye going in. And he was talking about the low kicks and timing the low kicks on Yair and how to get that. And and he was just really breaking it down into like a very straight, like, and then you used to see his eyes kind of roll back when he was talking about it. I was like, man, this guy is just different, dude. This guy is crazy. And he's a fucking rugby player.
Yeah. One thing, and we're big Ilia Topuria fans. We stand Ilia. Time. But when Volk, after this fight, when he was asked, about Ilia again, and from a few different media members,
the face off, dude, it was so like, okay, you're standing here, and then he's like looking at everybody. He's like, hey, what's up, man? Oh, yeah, you think so? He's like carrying the conversation.
Yeah.
And then it's like when the cool junior in high school or the cool sophomore in high school goes to like the cool senior guy. He's like, hey, dude, what's up? And then the senior guy but knows everybody's like, what's up? Oh, hey, what's up, dude? That's cool. Yeah, what's going on? Hey, we're talking. And then he's like, yeah, dude, yeah, okay, cool. You're here still? Okay, cool. Yeah. Okay, we're gonna look at each other. Okay, all right, see you later, man. And then like walked away. It was like so like Ilia was like, look at me. I want this. And then Volk's like, hey, what's up? Oh, yeah, you're that guy. Hey, what's up, man?
One thing that gave me a big boost of confidence in Volk in that fight. Not that I probably wouldn't have picked Volk anyways. Like, as much as we love Ilia, I think that would be a great fight. But Volkanovski specifically said, yeah, that stuff he's doing, it's not going to work against me. And that really, like, reverberated with me because it's something that you say when you truly are supremely confident that you have something figured out about that guy. There's one thing to say like, oh, I'm gonna beat the shit out of him or whatever, but to say no, the things he does, that ain't gonna work on me. That's very specific. He's looked at, he knows what Ilia brings to the table, and I think,
and that's also supreme confidence in his ability to game plan.
Yeah,
because he's like, okay, from what I've seen, I'm not very impressed. And from what I know about myself and my team, I know I will expose him.
Yeah.
Okay, see. But I would like to get another belt, guys. Islam Makhachev, Booker T. Islam Makhachev, I'm coming for you.
And I can go on and on about how I want Volk to stay put. I want him to keep defending. Sure. I like champions who,
he's hell bent, dude. You see it in his eyes. He's hell bent, and I think he's gonna get it. He's gonna get it, dude.
He's going up. I love champions who just decide that this is my division and I want to clean it out. He
talked about Aljamain.
Yeah, he mentioned a lot of people's names.
He actually, when I heard him talk about Pantoja, like just his inflection and the way he said it, he seemed a little more worked up to fight Aljamain than he did for Pantoja, because Pantoja really hasn't fought he's great, but he hasn't fought a whole lot. Hasn't fought a ton of amazing people.
Pantoja?
Oh, I'm sorry. I think of him as almost the same guy. Topuria.
Oh, gotcha.
Where Topuria is great. His eye test, 1000% off the charts, dude. Eye test. But he's talking about, like, I would like to fight Aljamain. Look at all the title defenses he's had. I'd have to. Fucking Islam Makhachev. I would love to do that. Yeah. So you know he's legacy hunting right now. Like Ilia Topuria is just like, okay, it would be like John Jones fighting. He should be fighting Sergey. He should absolutely be fighting Sergey Pavlovich. Yeah. Why the fuck? He's legacy hunting though.
Yeah. I think that legacy is important. I've always said Anderson Silva wouldn't be as highly regarded if, you know, he won 4 fights. You know, he won the title from Rich Franklin, defended it twice, and then started to jump around weight classes, which we know he did go up to light heavyweight, you know, but he was great because of how long he dominated middleweight, because of the
give it up, man. We get it. I get it, dude. Like, I see you're gritting your teeth, like, just stay, folks.
Just stay, dude. Just own your division. But anyways,
he does. He does.
My only hold up is that 3 of those fights were Max Holloway, you know?
Yeah.
And like, those are great fights because nobody else can beat Max Holloway. So those are absolutely, he still gets full credit for those, but it's not this guy and this guy and this guy. It's not saying like, yeah, I've beat an entire generation of featherweight contenders, you know, and I think that's what's really, really impressive. Also, you make the same amount of money. Whether you're a double champ and you're one champ, I don't think those pay-per-view points stack. You still just get your pay-per-view points. If anything, he should be trying to, I mean, who the fuck am I to tell Volk what to do? But if anything, he should just be trying to get on cards with Islam or cards with other big fight. You know what I mean? And you're still going to get the rub from having Islam on the card, and you're going to get paid. But like you said, legacy. Volk is absolutely about the legacy. I think the money doesn't
bug him as much as it does for American fighters, because he's generational talent, trailblazer for a whole fucking continent. So he's not tripping. Those people, the gigs, the interviews, the media that he can do in Australia, New Zealand, like that Southeast Asian area, like all those people, he can make so much money off whatever circuits they have there, where it's just like endorsements and all that stuff. It's crazy. That dollar is split it's split thin here in America, the endorsement and MMA, and that dollar split like
there's a lot of distractions in this country.
A lot of cocks in the soup here in America.
Contrary to that, though, did you know that people don't even really know who the fuck Volk is over in Australia?
Is that right?
He's not. I'm just kidding.
I was gonna say the fuck.
He's pretty much an unknown. He's more popular in Singapore. No. That's a good point. You know, to be as big and as relevant as he is a very, very different thing when you're in a country like that.
And his perspective, because we're coming at it from the American perspective. He's a whole different. He's in Australia. He has a whole different perspective on what career means and earning money and what kind of money he needs and what's important to him. You know, and just he's hell bent. And I think he feels like he was in there and he felt the fabric pause of Islam Makhachev. Like he felt it, and he's like, I can beat this motherfucker.
You know who else felt it? Dan Hooker.
Oh man, what a great fight!
Hangman Hooker fought Jalen Turner, won that fight with a broken arm and a broken orbital bone, dude.
He said in an interview on Mac Life that a lot of guys break their orbitals and they don't do as much. Some guys break them and they don't do as extensive of scans after. And so a lot of guys think just like big time shiners are just big time shiners, but it's actually, he said that there's degrees of orbital breaks.
Fractures.
He said or fractures that he's like, there's levels to it. So he's like, this wasn't as crazy as I've had. He said that he's even had that has gone undiagnosed.
Oh shit. Well, this one certainly didn't go undiagnosed. He said
the arm break was fucking wild, though. He said that was crazy. He's like, this shit just didn't want to work.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to use that to hit your opponent. But yeah, man, that X-ray that he shared on online on social media,
this man is insane.
We're talking levels of fractures or breaks. That was a clean ass break.
Yeah, that was gross.
Holy hell, Dan Hooker is tough as shit, which we already knew. We already knew he was tough as fucking hell. But Jalen Turner really put the screws to him for a while, but Dan Hooker, he rallied and managed to pick up the decision. He turned Mike into a fan. Mike was a devout Dan Hooker hater. But watching this fight,
he hates a lot of people, and he's very good at it, though. You have to give him that. He's very well. I'm saying excuses. Like his reasoning for it, he comes with a reason. I might not agree, but he's very good at that. Yeah.
It's weird to say someone you're good at hating. Like it's kind of abstract.
Well, I mean, when he's like what he said about like Shafkat and shit, it was just like, what the hell? And then he said like, I hope they get rid of fucking Bo Nickal. I was just like, whoa, dude! Like, what?
Oh no, it wasn't Bo Nick. He was saying he can't wait till John Anik goes away, which I don't agree with at all.
Yeah, no,
John Anik is great. He's wrong about that.
He's very weird.
He can be a little quirky, but as far as a play-by-play commentator, he's one of the best in the game. There's certainly other members of the commentary team who I can do without, but Jalen Turner, man, he didn't look unimpressive, but I think going back to the thing about Mike, I think he had specifically mentioned that he wasn't quite as sold on Jalen Turner as we were. He doesn't look at him as like this lightweight prospect when he's clearly a prospect at lightweight. But now his record falls to 13-6. He's always had a little bit of a suspicious record. He's had a lot of tough fights. Kind of didn't find himself, until a little bit later in his career. And I think a lot of it is, and not to say he doesn't get it done with skill and good coaching and strategy, but the man certainly relies heavily on his physicality and his frame for lightweight because he's fucking massive. We've talked about that before. He's 6'3" at lightweight.
He got rocked. He got hit. He lost, but did he he didn't lose like. There's a loss like Jalen Turner had, and there's a loss like Robert Whittaker had. Mm-hmm. So would you say, and then the thing too is like we watched, the reason like you and I really had a big or heavy on him because you can watch him and see his gait, his athleticism, the shit you can't teach, and then his technique that he uses, his God-given abilities. And then after this, the interviews, like, and people that haven't even fought him, like everybody's very high. Like a lot of fighters are like, that guy's fucking sick. A lot of fighters are like, that guy's. So like, I tend to agree more with like those dudes who like do that shit every day. Cause I and then it kind of like gives me confirmation in what I'm thinking.
And he's also so young too, and already looking really good against guys. I mean, he has two very close losses now, back to back to Dan Hooker and Mateusz Gamrot. But he's only 28. Like we have we have like 5 years of Jalen Turner until he's what Dan Hooker until he's where Dan Hooker's age right now, and Dan Hooker's is 33 now. So and to a lot of people that might be changing a little bit, but I've always kind of considered 32 to 33 to kind of be like the peak. Absolutely. Like a lot of physical peak for a lot of MMA fighters. So I think the kind of experience he's going to be getting, especially in this lightweight division, it could be a little bit of a double-edged sword because it's super good experience. Like you're not going to fight this level of lightweights anywhere else in the world or under any other banner of promotion, but you're also potentially going to get your ass handed to you by this level of lightweight. So it's all about learning from those losses, and seems to have a good head on his shoulders. He took a fun photo with Dan Hooker at the hospital. So I think that's really good. I think that it's not he's not going to lose the mental battle due to these losses. He's going to. A
lot of people that know a lot more than I do about this are really high on him, and he's got nothing, and he could definitely fuck shit up and do something dumb. Just like anyone else, but I feel like he does seem like he has a decent head on his shoulders, and he's motivated to to go out and do something good. So I'm not really worried about it. I think he does need to move up, but
I think needs to move up possibly, and because one thing I forgot, he missed weight for this fight
by 2 pounds.
Yeah, so he came in at 158 pounds. So that comment about potentially having to move up, that could be a thing in the future. Also, I would like, I mean, this is on me for not really knowing who he trains with, but I'm looking at his Tapology profile and showing he trains out of Carlson Gracie Riverside and RVCA. I think very, very, very curious to see what it looked like if he went to another coach and maybe got some different looks. But I don't want to pass judgment too much because I don't really know who his head coaches are at those establishments. But whenever I see a guy with as much natural fucking talent as him, I would always kind of be curious to see like what would it look like if a Greg Jackson got a hold of Jalen Turner. Or anybody else for that matter, Team Alpha Male. But
he's in California.
Yes, he is. All right, let's go ahead and talk about this UFC Fight Night Holm versus Bueno Silva card. This co-main event is very, very good. Albert Jurayev versus Jun Yoon Park in the co-main event.
Holy shit, dude.
No, we can't do that just yet because we need to talk about Robbie Lawler's perfect retirement.
Oh man, this is it. I want to make a comment though because after this, I was very sober, took a tolerance break on the pen and all that stuff.
Yeah,
and I had like a kind of this weird feeling was like I had like an after buzz of this fight. And like I wasn't on any substance, I didn't drink, I didn't do anything, and I had a very like wow, like a crazy buzz after that fight of just like this was crazy what I just saw, man. And then I remembered I can feel it, and it was like it wasn't even like thoughts or anything, it was a feeling, and this is gonna sound so weird, and I'm not a huge wrestling fan. You were talking about wrestling earlier, but the attitude era of WWE, I remember. I watched it with a friend, and I remember the feeling after I watched it was, and I don't even know if it was a good card or anything, but it was Stone Cold against Triple H, and it was like Survivor Series. And I just remember after that being like, dang, what did I just watch? That was so cool. Cause I wasn't a huge wrestling fan then, wasn't one now. It was one of my very first pay-per-views I had ever seen. Mm-hmm. And I was like, this is so fucking cool. This was badass. And I was like, maybe 12, 13. Mm-hmm. And I remember now I had that same like buzz after this. Like this shit was sick. Like, dang, I'm so glad I sat. And this is why I fucking have no life. And like, this is why I like waste my Saturdays and shit.
Actually, that bout between Stone Cold and Triple H, that was in the Invasion era? No. I don't know.
Was it?
No, I'm fucking around. I have no idea.
Yeah. I just remember it was like one of the first pay-per-views I had watched, and I was just like, dang, that was a spectacle, dude. Like, what did I just see?
I concur about Robbie Lawler's retirement. I'm glad that I didn't miss this fight. Glad I tuned in.
No, I meant the whole card as a whole. Like from beginning to end, not just the fight. I meant like the whole card. Talking about, because I was just tripping out. We just talked about some of the craziest shit ever.
Yeah.
And we're still haven't talked about Robbie Lawler. We still haven't talked about like there's some really crazy fights.
Yeah, and I know we just joked around about this fight night that's coming up and how we don't even want to talk about it. But to speak to that effect that you're talking about, and that just that post high of a really, really great card is just when you know, like, dude, there's so many talking points, and not just for us, but just the MMA community as a whole. Like when we can truly get excited for what these fights mean for the winners and the losers, and what their path is going to be moving forward, and what the stakes are. I think that's what really does it for me, because I mean, we can watch next week's card, and we can do the same thing we always do, which is shit on a fight night card for not being very deep, then
I'm gonna watch it, and I'm being a little pissed. I'm gonna watch it, dude.
And then we'll continue to do what we always do after that, was go back and say, well, I mean, it was actually pretty good, we shat on it, but there was entertainment. I think because there's always going to be some knockouts or whatever, so there's always going to be some quality to get from there, but the stakes, when the stakes are high, and this card had UFC 290 had all of it.
Like life changing. Robbie Lawler's life is different. Brandon Moreno's life is different. Pantoja's life is different. This is different shit, like life-changing shit.
I'm glad that the UFC production team really went all out on this, and I kind of hope that this is something that they're willing to do moving forward, and not just reserved for pay-per-views, because I think we've seen more legends than we should have leave their gloves in the center of the octagon in the apex, retiring with no crowd, with no video package or anything like that. This one for Robbie, I mean, it certainly helps. I
would have cried at an Aldo video package. I would have cried my fucking eyes out.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, you guys.
And I'm sure it helps that they knew that this was going to be Robbie's last fight. Not if they don't always know. Sometimes a fighter decides in that moment, you know.
Yeah.
So, you know, that definitely helped. But just every little detail, having the video package ready, making sure that there was a camera or a picture-in-picture so we can see Robbie Lawler's like reaction through the whole time, so we could see that they knew, like, we're gonna make Robbie cry and we're going to get it on camera. And it was awesome that he did, because he has such a storied career. Started his career out in 1999. Like, the dude is fucking the end of an era, for sure. I don't know if there's anybody else other than
Bettendorf, Iowa meant something. Like when saying Bettendorf, Iowa was like, if you're like training out of Bettendorf, Iowa, and you're just like, holy fuck, this guy's going to kill somebody.
Back in that time, 2005, 2006, if somebody was training out of Militich Fighting Systems, holy shit, you could fucking break out your bankroll. Man. There's so many different eras of Robbie Lawler in and outside of the UFC. Was he a Strikeforce champion? I don't recall. I think he was a Strikeforce champion.
He was a Strikeforce savage. I loved watching him in Strikeforce.
Yeah. Man, I don't know if you can have a more perfect retirement. I mean, without a title even, you know, being connected to this or anything. Shout out to Nico Price for coming out and being on the other end of that. For that whole
he's good too. I was very like, what?
I was thinking this is a dangerous retirement fight for him, because you know, Nico Price, for all of his flaws, he's going to make Robbie fight. I don't think we did a breakdown for this fight, but one thing I was telling Mike is I was very curious about which Robbie Lawler would show up, and if retirement Robbie Lawler looks any different from the guy that we've seen in his last 2-3 fights with such little output. The guy, you know, I mean, I think about the Colby Covington fight, and granted, Colby's going to put a certain kind of pressure on you that might affect your output, but he was just.
You're talking about the next champion in that division, dog. Careful. No, I'm just playing around.
But just the constant shoulder rolling with no actual counter off, you know, it's kind of a weird look, but it was really evident that Robbie intended to go out with put an exclamation point on it, and he did. Shout out to, like I said, shout out to Nico Price for playing the fucking like the Vanderlei to his Chris Lieben, and just like desperate, sitting in that clinch to get fucking uppercutted into oblivion, man. It was, couldn't get any better than that.
So classy. What a classy guy, dude. Robbie Lawler's a classy guy.
How much money has BKFC already thrown at Robbie Lawler?
Oh, I bet he's like the poster boy for that.
Yeah.
I hope he doesn't do it though. I think, and it's crazy, I was talking to a friend.
You don't have friends, Brandon.
I was talking to a friend who was a really big Robbie Lawler fan, and I had actually watched Strikeforce Robbie Lawler with them, like at their home, and he was like, he like almost put me onto it, and I was like, man, I hope he doesn't go to BKFC, man. And then my friend was like, don't even say that, dude. Don't even say that. We're just like sad.
Yeah, don't even put that out into the world.
Yeah.
I kind of trust he's one of the guys who will stay retired. We know MMA retirements are not always permanent, but I feel like the deal is, like, if Robbie was going to keep fighting, he would just keep fighting in the UFC.
The UFC, He won. He's looked good. I mean, shit. The one thing that really pisses me off was that Ben Askren shit. He fucking... Because what Masvidal did to Ben Askren was crazy, but that first round with Lawler and Askren, he was like like otherworld like strength, beating the shit out of somebody. That was like, dude, Askren should not be in the UFC. I should not.
You know what? I obviously we remember the bulldog choke and the no tap and all that controversy and stuff. But it's easy to forget just how bad Robbie was putting the wood on Ben Askren.
The shit, dude. It was very scary. That was like what a UFC fight. That looked like a prank show. You know what I mean? When a UFC fighter gets in there with a bully.
There was that whole like, you guys traded away Demetrius Johnson for this. Like, what the fuck are we doing? But and you know what? Even though it was an unfortunate result and kind of like it fucking changed history, because that ended up that I mean, maybe Ben Askren ends up fighting Masvidal even with a loss in that fight, but either way, it was almost as iconic for Robbie Lawler's reaction and for it being like another example of just how fucking chill Robbie Lawler is
and classy.
Because I remember he was losing his mind for a split second, like at Herb Dean, like, what are you doing? And then he immediately composes himself and says, you know what, you're the best in the business, don't let anybody ever tell you whether. And it's like, that's not true, but
not even close.
But Robbie is just such a class act that he's going to say that. That's like actually like kind of makes it into like.
And then Askren juxtaposed was getting his ass whipped. He knows he was, and then goes in the camera and goes, Dana, is that the best you got? And it was like, dude, this guy literally like did the fucking like Fresh Prince spinning you over the top of his head and then tossed you to the other side of the cage. And it was like so many.
I didn't realize what you were saying, but
dude, look it up. He Fresh Prince Ben Askren, dude, and then just like held him and just started like it was like a cartoon bar fight, and it was just like boom, 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 and then I don't know how he like lost, he like over, and then he just put his head around his hand. Fucking
farewell.
I don't even care about Herb Dean anymore. I used to like Herb Dean. I could care less after he did that to Ben Askren. Or gave Ben Askren that win.
Yeah. Farewell, Robbie Lawler.
Absolutely, man. We love you.
You're
the best, man.
Who else has had... I mean, he has his losses. 30-16 is the record that he retired with. But like, as far as like perfect retirements, who comes close?
Oh man,
we know. Obviously, there's Khabib. You know, he kind of went out on top.
Habib did it. Yeah, he did it the right way. Shit, dude, I do not know. Because now, in hindsight, with like everything, it just can't. With how we see guys ended it, you know.
One that Mike and I always bring up that we appreciate was Chris Lytle's retirement.
Oh, sure.
He retired with it was a pretty sick ass, was it the guillotine choke? I'm looking at his record because I don't remember who it was against. Yeah, Dan Hardy.
Lights out Lytle. Yeah.
He had a pretty good retirement where he went out on a win, and I mean, it certainly wasn't as much like fanfare and emotional stakes like how they went all out with Robbie, but that was a pretty good one. I don't know.
Robbie is the opposite of... Man, you wish that BJ would have had a Robbie Lawler retirement.
Oh yeah.
If BJ Penn had the Robbie Lawler retirement, that would have been sick. But
well, you know what's funny though? Like BJ, the thing is he was just like one win away from like, because the moment he gets that win, you know they're telling him like, all right, that's it. We're playing the video for you, dog. Go away. Because you know, there was I'm looking at his record between 2017 and 2020, you know, he had four losses in a row, did Robbie Lawler, to Neil Magny, Colby Covington, Ben Askren, RDA. At that point, you know, going into his fight with Nick Diaz, I mean, if he hadn't fought Nick Diaz, and you know, he would have lost 5 in a row, because after that he had the loss to Brian Barberina. So I think a lot of people probably could have been looking at him and been like, well, this story's starting to look a lot like BJ Penn, dude, like hang him up. But all the difference is getting that last win. And I think that's why guys chase it. I mean, I'm sure that's what BJ was chasing. He
probably was.
We could have.
How do we know they didn't have the fucking confetti
Yeah.
Literally like confetti in the cannon. His family, like Reagan, like in a suit waiting in the corner. They're just like, no. Like Reagan's like walking out there like, no, stop him.
Yeah. For every last one of those sad BJ Penn fights, they were probably prepared to give him the perfect retirement also.
Yeah, we just don't know. Like all the like those shirts, like those Super Bowl shirts that never get used, and they like go to Africa or whatever. Like someone saying like someone in like Angola is wearing like a happy retirement BJ shirt.
I want to make those shirts now. Okay, we are an hour and 10 minutes in. Let's go into quick recap mode now. Just kind of jump around through some of those. We didn't really talk about the Bo Nickel Val Woodburn fight.
That was sick.
That was sick, but there's not a whole lot to talk about.
Thanks for coming out, Val.
Shay, thanks for showing up. He came out swinging like a motherfucker. He knew what his only shot was. And impressive for Bo Nickel to get a knockout. You know, to do it standing. You know, it's kind of like bucking.
Khabib had a hard time on a day's notice. I mean, Val wasn't outraged now or anything like that, but I mean, guys a lot better than Bo Nickel have had a hard time with quick change fights. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So he continues to grow. His record climbs to 5-0. I'm sure the UFC will have him back out there pretty soon. He didn't take any damage at all.
They're gonna put him back in Contender Series. Watch, David's gonna milk that shit because that shit's coming out. He's gonna have to fight. Super
fresh. Tatsuro Taira gets a unanimous decision win over Edgar Chairez. The top control is something to behold.
That was very technical. That's all I could say. Like, it wasn't like a normal UFC fan, or I'm not trying to say like, you don't understand what he did, but he's very good at that. His like transition and the way he stays on. Yeah, that was very good. And Chairez came out and fought hard.
Yeah. And granted, I don't know much about Chairez's his defensive wrestling or his grappling abilities, but another dominant win for Tatsuro Taira. I'd like to see him start to get tested now at this bantamweight division, because I kind of want to see what it looks like when he fights a real fucking cornfed American wrestler. I think that's the kind of the matchup I want for him next. And he's also a really interesting grappler. For one, I think he needs to do more damage. It seems like he was really hunting. It kind of looked like he was hunting for a Von Flue. And I know I said we weren't going to do breakdowns, but there was like, he was going for like a modified Von Flue choke, and Mike and I were popping off like, yeah, he's gonna get it because we were trained by Von Flue.
It's an OSP check.
No,
correct?
No, it's not. It's the Von Flue choke. It's the live wire, is what it's actually called. It's actually
like the book definition.
Yeah, but he also seems kind of allergic to throwing ground and pound. So with that all that dominant positional dominance, I should say, I'd like to see more offense from him on the ground moving forward. But for another one, Denise Gomez fucking puts Yasmin Jauregui in a box, and that
was so awkward, man.
Yeah, dude, this was all one-way traffic. As soon as Yasmin Jauregui kind of got in, as soon as Denise Gomez got it within the striking range, she just cleaned her clock with 3 right hands.
That was a car accident.
I'm not going to say exposed. I'm still down for Yasmin Jauregui. I think she's one of the better prospects in the strawweight division. But she did get dropped.
So does Daniel Cormier think she's like in the universe? She's one of the greatest female fighters. She's going to change the universe of female fighting.
Absolutely.
Forever.
Yep. No, she's going to be carrying the flag. No, she did get dropped in her last fight against Estela Nunes, and of course she came back and rallied because I think I said it last time. Her win in that fight kind of reminded me of vintage Shogun, where it is just, I'm going to generate as much violence and offense as I can to turn this around and get it back to me.
Style.
Yeah, I think I remember she finished Stella Nunes with hammer fists like on the ground. It just looked very, very just, skill out the window, just violence. And I think that's going to get her a lot of good fun fights still moving forward.
Absolutely.
But man, Denise Gomez, she fucking packs a punch, man. A lot of people seem to think that this was supposed to be like an easy fight for Jauregui, or that this was kind of like supposed to be like a showcase fight. But we both saw what Denise Gomez did to Bruno Brazil. Yeah. So
well, Bruno's was eating off of that nice kick on Contender Series. So
yeah. She was, and I guess we didn't really see her chin tested in that at all, but we still got to see that Denise Gomez has power in her hands.
Yeah, I think we talked about that after the Bruno Brazil fight.
Yeah,
it was like Denise has change your life type of power, make you different forever type of power.
Different, yeah. So yeah, and more heavy hitters in the strawweight division. That'll be one to keep an eye on going forward. I don't want to just be a broken record. I know there's a lot of other interesting fights, but boy, I would be excited for a Denise Gomez versus Yasmin Lucindo fight.
Sure.
But it doesn't really make sense because I think Yasmin Lucindo coming off of she's not coming off of the loss, but she has the loss to Yasmin Jauregui, but we'll see how it goes. Vitor Petrino versus our boy Marcin Prachnio. Prachnio comes up short, gets the arm triangle choke.
A very Marcin Prachnio fight.
A very yeah, man. Let's see.
Not so much, but
Alonzo Minifield gets the guillotine choke win over Jimmy Crute, and if I remember correctly, I think Jimmy Crute retired in the cage.
Did he?
Took his gloves off immediately, left him there. But I don't think.
That's when I was grilling. Around that time, that's when I was in and out on the grill and shit.
And I don't think any losers from this card got any post-fight interviews. So even though he was quick. He was immediately taking his gloves off. It looked like it was going to be a retirement, but he didn't get a chance to get on the mic and announce it.
Yeah, give it out. Yeah.
So yeah, I think we can go ahead and start wrapping it up there, unless there was any other big news in the world of mixed martial arts that we can kind of touch on, or big fight bookings that I'm not remembering right now.
There was
fights getting booked all the time. Della Maddalena got rebooked, right? He's actually going to be on this
for this week. Yeah. 2 straight weight cuts. That's going to be rough.
Yes.
Imagine if Della Maddalena would have fought. Who was he originally supposed to fight? That's 3 fights now. And then that guy, Sean Brady, Della Maddalena on this card would have been sick. That would have been sick.
That would have been
what
great.
The hell? That we didn't even. It was sick without that. And then that guy almost. They did a scan and they're like, dude, if you would have got hit the right way, you would have died.
That I'm really glad that they got figured that out, because that would have been tragic. So shout out to
fighting the wrong guy. If it's you can't get hit in the head, you're fighting the wrong guy.
I mean, what would that have done for Jack Della Maddalena's reputation, though? I mean,
if he killed the dude,
guy could be like, I fucking killed the guy in the cage.
No, or the opposite. That could be crazy,
it would be
that's
horrible.
Not a badge of honor.
It would be horrible. I'm sorry I even joked about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, they have.
I'm usually the guy on the other end of that. Okay, Brandon, chill, shut up.
Interestingly, JDM and his new opponent Basil Hafez on the undercard, on the prelims for this card.
Oh yeah.
Because there's no way they're gonna bump Walt Harris and Josh Parisian. No, heck no. Ottman Zaitar, Francisco Prado, please. That has main card written all over it, dude.
Cameron Simon looked great. Another African king. He looked great. Let's see. And there was one. Oh, that very first fight was very good. And that guy, I want to see more of that gentleman, Esteban Ribovics. I want to see that guy fight more. He looks good. His style is clean as fuck. I was like, man, this guy is good. I've not seen him fight. Was sitting down, watched that whole fight. It fucking fuck yeah, I'm excited to see it.
You're back to 290? You're going?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I just wanted to say that. No, I'm sorry. Props. I just want to say, I'm going to keep an eye on that guy. The guy I'm going to keep an eye on from now on that I had no idea even existed. It was just Esteban Ribovics.
Hell yeah.
Watch that guy again. He was clean.
Yeah, no doubt. I was just like, wait, who are you talking about? Because I was looking at the other card, and I was like, oh, he's back on 290. It's just that good of a card. All right, man. Well, let's go and call it there. Thanks for joining me again, Brandon, as always. Listeners, thank you for joining us as well. Hope you made it this far. If you did, and if you liked this episode, as always, consider hitting that like button. Please, whether you want to or not, hit that subscribe button. You want to. And ring the bell so you don't miss any of our future episodes. And we will see you on the next Fight Plug podcast.
I'm excited to see Victoria Dudakova, though. She's a dime piece. Very nice.
Right on.